Hi, I'm Diana Green, and welcome to our series called Growing in Wisdom. This is our 6th video in the series, and this is called Do I Have To? This is the discernment stage, the stage of taking initiative. This is the early adult stage, and we are looking at the beatitude that you'll find in Matthew 5:10 through 12. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of right actions, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is the stage of taking responsibility, of taking initiative, of picking up your cross and going in reverent awe as Jesus did. We are to fulfill a higher calling, to practice compassion through humility and power. In this stage, we learn what it means to overcome our fear. Let me give you an example, what I'm talking about. Jesus would teach in parables. He would take things that happen in our real life and show us what he's trying to teach us. And he will do that today, too, in our lives. I have several parables where he has done that. And when I was learning this beatitude, we were in Arkansas, in a small little town, and the boys were learning Taekwondo. I love to go watch them as they learn the patterning of what to do when they came later on in combat with others. They would do the patterns that kind of looked like they were dancing to me. And they would learn the movements. And I noticed, they get a belt and they get stripes on the belt that show what stage they're at. And when they got to the 5th belt, I noticed there wasn't as many people in that level in the classroom. There had been a lot as the boys were progressing through. And so I asked their instructor, he was a Christian, and he was also belonged to the National Guard. So he was well qualified, in my estimation, to teach the boys. At the beginning of each class, they would do this Taekwondo pledge. And it was the core values, which were courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control in thoughts, emotions, and actions, and an indomitable spirit. And that means having courage to stand up for your principles and beliefs, to stay standing strong no matter who you go against and what hindrances are ahead of you. The boys were required to repeat that at the beginning of each class, and I thought it sounded so much like learning the character of the Beatitudes. In fact, their instructor didn't worry about whether they were victorious or whether they lost. The important thing to him was that the boys have integrity. That's what he taught, integrity. And as they processed through, like I was saying, I noticed that there was less people when he came to the 5th belt. So I asked their instructor, how come? How come there's not as many people? And he said, well, they have been learning how to pattern. They've been learning how to do the movements, and they've been living in their own little world doing that. They're off by themselves learning how to pattern the different movements. But when they get to the 5th belt, it requires that they come in combat with somebody else. And they had to trust that the other person realized and had control of their body, because they realized that they could hurt somebody. With the movements, you can actually break an arm, you can break ribs, you can break a leg. And he demonstrated this. Their Taekwondo instructor demonstrated with boards when the boys would hit them, and he would teach them how to hit them so they didn't hurt themselves. And when they had some boards together, that represented somebody's leg. And when somebody broke that, oh my goodness. So people realized they could get hurt, and so they dropped out. And I thought that was very interesting, because this art, this movement, that leads up to the real battle, the real conflict, to me was like life. Life is a contact sport. And we have to learn the earlier stages before we actually come into combat, before we actually go out and take what we believe out into the world. And we have to learn like an infant how to trust God. We have to learn like a toddler that you are not me and I am not you, and that I cannot do things on my own. I need God's help. And there is more than just me in the world. I have to learn that at that toddler stage. And in the wonder stage, the preschool stage, that's where I need to observe the world. I need to become aware of what's around me, using my eyes and my ears. But I also need to use my imagination so I can imagine myself out of my current situation, out of what is weighing me down. I need to develop my imagination in the preschool stage. And as a pre-adolescent, I need to learn the power of humility, especially when someone is trying to humiliate me. And in the I'm hungry stage, we learned in the adolescent stage, we need to learn to depend more on the Holy Spirit in discernment. We must feed of that bread and that water that Jesus promised us. And depending more on the Holy Spirit that prepares us for the persecution stage, the stage of actually engaging in the world. That's what their classes in Taekwondo taught me as I watched the boys. And in this persecution stage, blessed are the persecuted, in that sixth stage, Satan, Jesus said to Peter, has asked to sift you. This is the place of sifting by Satan. What does that mean? You can ask Jesus in the desert. He was sifted by Satan. He went through the 3 testings. And you can look at Job. He also was tested by Satan. Satan asked to sift him, and the Lord allowed it. He lost everything. He lost all that he owned, and he lost all of his family. And also David. David was considered a righteous man. They were all considered righteous men, but they have been asked to be sifted, and the Lord allowed it. Ask anyone who's been through a difficult circumstances. They've learned a lot. They've deepened their faith in the Lord, but they wouldn't want to go through that again. But somehow the Lord has figured out, or he created us that way, he knows that the only way we will draw closer to him is when we have difficult circumstances. He doesn't cause them to happen, but he allows them to happen so that we will lean into him, so we will have a deeper relationship with him. And when that transformation of the heart is happening, there's a shifting that happens. People will tell you when they have gone through that period of time where the Lord has allowed the enemy to sift them, there is a shifting inside of them, and they can't explain it, but the heart is transformed. There is an example. It's like walking in a dark room or being in a dark place. The first time I realized this, my boys had invited 2 friends over. This again was when we were living in Merlin in Oregon, in southern Oregon near Grants Pass. The boys had invited 2 friends over, and they had spent the day going down a hill with their big wheels. They were pretty exhausted by the time night came. So I didn't have any trouble getting them to bed. It was no problem at all. And so when I left the boys' room and I turned out the light, one of their friends started yelling, "I can't see my hand! I can't see my hand! I've got my hand right in front of my face, but it's so dark. I can feel it, but I can't see it." And I thought, indeed, we lived in the country. There's no streetlights, and the moon wasn't out. And of course, I said it was Oregon, so it was cloudy, and there was no stars in the sky. So it was dark outside. And when the lights went out, it was pitch black. And I thought about that. I thought about what he said, and I realized that this is what the 6th stage of spiritual development is like. It's like being in complete darkness. And there is one small light being given, one small candle being given for you to be able to see. In this darkness, when you look to the right, it's completely dark. When you look to the left, it's completely dark. It can frighten you. It can scare you. And if you try and look beyond that light, it's also dark. You cannot see. You have no choice but to focus on the light and take one step at a time. One step at a time. And as you take those steps, you will start to move out of the darkness. But it can be very, very scary, because during this time, you need to trust that that light, the Lord, is not leading you to a black hole. You need to realize He's going to carry you through this time where you cannot see. You cannot see at all, not even your hand in front of your face. You will be challenged to stand up during this time, to be open about your faith and stand up for what you believe in. And you will need to discern what you have always been taught and decide, is that true or is that not true? In this time of my life, for me, has what I've been taught truth? You will need to test whether you are willing to stand up for what you believe in and follow Jesus. And that's why the previous stage is so important, that you take in the bread that He's offering, that you take in the water that He's offering, because that is going to strengthen you. It's for strengthening you, for learning about how to follow Him, to trust Him, to, in humility, do what He's asking you to do. The more you learn in that previous stage, the better off you will be when the enemy asks to sift you, when you go through the dark night. In this stage, you will be asking yourself, I know about God. I've learned a lot of stuff about God, but I haven't really experienced Him. This stage is for experiencing Him, so you can get your beliefs deep down into your heart. It's not just head knowledge, it is heart knowledge, because you really are developing a relationship with Him. And you will be asking yourself, who is this God? Do I trust Him? Do I believe Him? Do I believe He has the power to help me, and yet the humility, the grace to forgive me when I stumble and I fall? This is, like I said, the dark night of the soul. This is the beginning of the deep trials of the soul, where Satan has asked to sift you. In this stage, you'll learn more about how to move like a dance with the Holy Spirit. There'll be trials and tribulations, but He will give you grace as you learn, just like the boys were learning the different patterning in Taekwondo, getting them ready for the stage where they will go out and do combat. This stage, you are given a lot of grace as you are learning. In this, you will find and realize that you'll be hard-pressed to explain what is going on inside of you. No one can see what's happening inside of you. They can't see it. And it can be a very confusing time because it's dark. You don't understand everything that's going on. But there is a cleansing of the heart that is happening. And it'll show up on your face. People will know something's going on, but they don't know what it is. And you really don't know what it is either, just that you are being transformed from the inside out. Again, you are learning more, not just about God, but who God is in your experience of Him, because He's carrying you through many hard places. And these hard places will bring you to your knees. You will ask for His help. They'll bring you to your knees. You'll either do that or you will turn in bitterness and walk away from Him. This is where you will learn, have I built my life on the rock? Have I learned in the previous stages? Have I built my life on a rock, or have I truly built it on sand? You will find out, because the heart will begin to reveal who you really are. The Holy Spirit will show you your own heart. And as He shows you, you might push it away, turn away, and walk away because you don't want to see it. Or if you are wise, you will go ahead and weep. And I recommend when you get to this point, forget the Kleenex box. It won't do you any good. There's not enough tissues in it. Grab a large bath towel. You're going to need it. Because the Lord in the Holy Spirit is going to purify your heart. And you're going to be transformed. This is getting you ready to learn what it means to really mourn. This is getting you ready to learn what it really means to have a purified heart before the Lord. How you navigate the dark night, this time of spiritual battle, will tell you how you have passed through the infant stage, the toddler stage, the preschool stage, the pre-adolescent, the adolescent stage. You may have to go back and go through parts of those stages, those transitions, in order to move on to this adult stage. There might be something that you missed. So you must allow yourself to be transformed by the Father, because what He is doing at this point is that He is asking you to allow Him to parent you. You're being reparented. You're being reborn, transformed. He's asking you to allow Him to parent you because He's bringing you into His home, into His kingdom. And so your heart must be ready for that. And He is trying to fill that. And so now your prayers will not be, Lord, give me this, or Lord, I need this, or Lord, could you please work this out for me? Instead, you will be on your knees asking for strength, asking for Him to carry you through what He is trying to do internally in you. You will be looking at how you have grown in Him and how you have not grown in Him. And He will show you, as I said, how to dance with Him, to do the patterning like the boys did, how to dance, how to turn. And what you will discover is that when you dance with Him, you're not alone. First of all, you're with Him. You are companioned with Him, but you will discover there are other people on the dance floor also dancing with Him. And what He is getting you ready for is the banquet that's going to be held in His Son's honor. And in order to attend the banquet, you need to learn how to dance. You've got to know how to dance. So I invite you that when He asks you to go through this dark night, the cleansing of your heart before Him, that you say yes. Yes, because you want to attend the banquet. Blessed are those, as we learned last video, who hunger and thirst for right actions, for they will be filled. And the beatitude that goes with that is, blessed are those who are persecuted because of right actions, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The Lord is preparing you to receive the kingdom of heaven, not just when you die, but now, here, now. The kingdom of heaven is coming to your heart, my heart, and others' hearts, so that we can reach out and we can go into His home together. He wants peace in His home. And in order to do that, He wants you to take the heart He has given you and develop that heart in Him. I am Diana Green, and I am praying for you, and I am praying for me, that we will grow in wisdom as the Holy Spirit is coming more and more to develop the heart that the Lord has given us.